Hello, my name is John Diamonon. I'm the Senior Vice President of Licensing and Business Development for Arcade1UP.
What a weekend for this particular announcement. We are here at EVO 2022, the return of the physical event, and y'all just announced a bombshell. So many people asking for this, so many possibilities open, so many cool things about this. What is it like to finally drop Marvel vs. Capcom 2 in an Arcade1UP machine?
Oh my gosh, it's a dream come true. This is many years in the making. So actually I was involved with Marvel vs. Capcom 2 back in my days at Capcom when we released the digital version as well as Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and Infinite and everything else. And things have gone full circle for me to be able to bring this back to the fans. I think it's been almost exactly a year today when Maximilian started the free MVC2 campaign. And that campaign had just got people engaged and wanting this to come back. And for us to finally freed MVC2, hashtag freed MVC2, I'm ecstatic about it.
We're actually a little bit a part of that. Like, Max actually used Shacknews articles in that.
I saw that. He was making all these theories with digital clips and then Marvel and everything else. I'm like, hey, this has to happen. So, it's one of those things where when fans really want something and they get loud about it, it eventually happens. You see that with a lot of content, like the Snyder Cut with Justice League, and now in the video game area with Marvel vs. Capcom 2. So I don't think this could have happened unless that hashtag free Marvel vs. Capcom 2 gained as much traction as it did. So I'm glad it's finally here.
And it's not just Marvel vs. Capcom 2. In true Arcade1UP fashion, y'all have packed a lot into this machine. Can you go over what you've got here?
Yeah, so we have 8 games. Of course, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Marvel vs. Capcom, Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter, Marvel Superheroes, X-Men Children of the Atom, X-Men vs. Street Fighter. We have 2 other games, Marvel War of the Gems, and as well as X-Men Mutant Apocalypse. So it's 8 games. I don't know if I said all the 8 games? I hope you did, but yeah, it's basically all of the Capcom developed Marvel games minus Punisher.
And in another Arcade1UP fashion, this is going to be something where people will be able to. Y'all include a Wi-Fi feature in this,
yes.
So players will be able to take Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and play online against other Arcade1UP players.
That's exactly correct. So this is online play with leaderboards. And the great thing about this is because we released a few versions of the Marvel series, like Marvel Superheroes, X-Men vs. Street Fighter, and Marvel vs. Capcom 1. So Marvel vs. Capcom 1 and X-Men vs. Street Fighter also had online play. The great thing about this cabinet is it's cross-play, meaning that if you had one of the older versions, you can play like Marvel vs. Capcom and X-Men vs. Street Fighter in the same infrastructure over here. So we're really excited about that.
Y'all have been doing this for quite some time. You cut your teeth on launching the Street Fighter 2 Arcade1UP cabinet. Can you speak to have there been any particular lessons learned along the way, complaints addressed, criticisms addressed that made this machine possible where it might not have been when Arcade1UP started?
Well, I think a lot of people know that particularly in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, it's been what we call in licensing hiatus. We haven't had a new version of Marvel vs. Capcom 2 since over 13 years now. And Capcom and Marvel no longer have a basically working relationship yet. So that was a huge challenge. So for us to be able to work with both the teams, and they really supported it. The people at Capcom, people at Marvel knew that this was a long-awaited game, and we were able to have them work together, and here we are today.
And you're right, the landscape has changed so much since Marvel vs. Capcom 2 first launched. Now you have Disney in control of Marvel. And does that play a part in making this happen?
Yes, it does, because when we first got the Disney licenses, of course Disney owns Star Wars and Marvel and Fox, and so being able to work with the different divisions to get Simpsons out and Star Wars out, it was a natural progression also to use the Marvel IPs, and so it made it easier. It made it easier that we were already working with different departments of Disney to get Marvel vs. Capcom 2 up.
And you've got some very old school arcade fans that are very excited for this machine. One, Justin Wong, old head of all old heads, the master of lame.
I would say master of lame, the master of defense and turtling. Master of lame, he does know, he's such a genius in the game that he knows how to make sure he doesn't get hit.
And leading into that, like, how important is it to make sure, like, making sure these machines have been arcade perfect has been a huge part of Arcade1UP's strategy going forward. Like, even back in the days of, like, I remember interviewing y'all about Street Fighter 2 back in the day, and how players were telling you got to have the lag on Ryu's Fireball because that's the way it feels. And, like, can you speak to how that process of making it arcade perfect has evolved over the years?
Well, I think early on we knew that when we're going to, release these Street Fighter games or Marvel games or Mortal Kombat, whether it's or Instinct, that we use consultants who know the games in and out. And they, like for Justin Wong, it was important for us to engage with them and have them, even before he started working at Marvel, at Arcade1UP. We used him as a consultant. He had to make sure that, all the inherent bugs, all the infinites, all the exploits, they're all in there because that's an important part of the culture. So Justin Wong, definitely this is his baby project. He's heavily involved in this, and he's going to make sure that this is as close to arcade perfect as possible because, there's a certain responsibility when you release these type of games because, fighting game fans are super critical. You're not going to play it if it doesn't feel arcade perfect.
And I gotta ask, because like this could have been an announcement in a different time period with the pandemic over the last 2 years, what with competitions being pushed out and online competitions taking their place for a long time.
Support your locals. Yes, correct.
This in a different situation, this could have been something that you just had to announce, but you got to announce it here at EVO 2022, the return of the physical event. What is it like to be back at a physical tournament to be able to show off Marvel vs. Capcom 2?
I think the timing was right. We wouldn't have the same impact if it was just throwing a trailer out there and a press release that didn't happen during EVO. We know EVO is so important, especially now the EVO is supported by Sony and everything else, and then people coming back. We just got very lucky that we are timing the announcement and the release when people are coming back to EVO. I just miss it. Don't you miss it? I miss seeing everyone again. It's like a reunion, and I couldn't be any more happy to have this out when EVO finally opened up again.
And when can players and fans expect to learn more about this machine? Like when they can pre-order, when they can get it into their home and play it themselves?
Well, so we just announced yesterday. Pre-orders go live on September 8th. Go to Arcade1UP and enter the Notify Me section for Marvel vs. Capcom 2. The reason why is that it's important is because you'll get the first basically news exactly when this game is available for pre-order. And I couldn't really stress this enough to do that because our data and our Notify Me's and all that has been like out off the roof. And I'm just afraid that there's probably more demand than there is going to be supply. And I'm not just saying that to get you to force you to do it right away and to create FOMO. No, it's been such a great response to this title. So again, I would advise you to go to Arcade1UP, press the Notify Me button on the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 page. Once you get that email saying that pre-order is live, you better pre-order or you may not get the cabinet.
And is there anything else you want to share with fans before we close out this interview?
I want to thank everyone who's been involved in the entire Marvel vs. Capcom culture, the free MVC2 campaign. We're going to do this game justice. It's a very difficult game to emulate. You have Justin Wong. You have a lot of people behind the scenes. Make sure you're optimizing the net play, the rollback net play, and all of that. You know, this is a tribute to the fans of Marvel vs. Capcom 2 specifically. So I just want to thank you guys for being loud and telling everyone that you want this game to be released. And thank you so much for all of your support, not only for Marvel and Capcom, but for also Arcade1UP.
Would you say that in September 2022 you're going to take them for a ride?
That's it. We're going to take you for a ride. Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da.